The benefits of cold exposure. Now, primarily, when I'm saying cold exposure, I mean immersing yourself in water because science has proved that it has more benefits than just being cold in general, like more norepinephrine production and so on. That's how I do it. I believe it's the most effective way if you're going to do cold exposure for health purposes. If you're weak or you have any disease and so on and so forth, don't do cold exposure because you might kill yourself. And ease into it. Don't go jumping in a lake like I did in the last video. Take cold showers for a prolonged period of time, and when you feel like you can handle that easily, then you can start doing things that are a bit more extreme. Oh well, let's get into the benefits. Brown fat activation, or brown adipose tissue activation, if you want to be a scientist. Brown fat essentially does thermogenesis, so turning calories into heat. And if you're overweight, then this might be a good idea. Or it might be a good idea to do cold exposure so that you burn more calories, so that your weight goes down faster. Now, if you, on the other hand, are skinny or are trying to gain weight, you can do the mathematics on your own. Don't do a bunch of cold exposure because then you'll have a harder time gaining weight. And if you're not eating enough, you might even lose weight. And as a skinny person, that's not good because, as we know, toxins bind to fat. If you don't have any fat, your brain is going to get fried. Oh well. Inflammation. Now, cold exposure produces a protein or increases the synthesis of a protein called adiponectin, which is anti-inflammatory. It has other benefits, but that's just one of them. Longevity. Scientists put mice in a colder environment and they observed their longevity and it increased. And they had two hypotheses. The first one is that the rate of reaction in their cells slowed down. Of course, a hypothesis, if you don't know, is just some scientific explanation to what might have been the cause of the increased longevity. And so the rate of reaction basically slowed down and they didn't create as many free radicals since they lived longer. Number two, it might have been due to the stress of the cold making them stronger, increasing their antioxidant capacity and therefore making them live longer. Now, is this applicable to humans? Maybe. Who knows? Number 4, nervous system. Nervous system benefits. Now, your body generally doesn't want to be in a very cold environment because it wants to live, right? It wants the blood to flow and it wants adequate heat, body temperature for everything to function. If you put yourself in a very cold environment, your nervous system is going to go crazy. And every time you use a nervous system pathway, it becomes more effective. So if you're literally activating or telling every capillary in your body to contract, well, then you're strengthening your central nervous system a lot. Recovery. Now, we, a few sentences ago, mentioned capillaries. If your capillaries get stronger, that means your cardiovascular system gets stronger. Now, let's say you've worked out and you need to supply nutrients to the muscles that have been damaged. Do you think someone who does a bunch of cold exposure will have better recovery? Of course they will. Just look at athletes. All of them do cold exposure because it decreases their recovery. So that's one of the benefits. Adiponectin again, but it helps with blood sugar regulation. And when it comes to cold exposure, it has two effects. Either it's first we have the adiponectin, which regulates blood sugar, and then we have the increased caloric needs from burning a bunch of calories. And as you know, the best way of incorporating carbohydrates into your diet is when you've worked out or before a workout, or so on and so forth. You don't want to just put a bunch of glucose in without using it because you'll glycate yourself. So that's just something to think about. It's not only adiponectin, it's also that you're burning a bunch of calories, and that helps your blood sugar response go down, because then you're replenishing the glucose instead of just having it floating around in your blood. Number 7, more active immune system. Now, what I've noticed is that my white blood cell count is much higher than, well, let's say this. We did a biology lab where we pricked our finger and we looked at our blood. And our teacher said that if you notice that you have a bunch of white blood cells going around, when you're looking at it with the microscope, you might be heading toward a sickness. And I had a bunch of white blood cells, but lo and behold, I didn't get sick. And I never get sick, and I attribute it to cold exposure, because a more active immune system takes care of you in a better way. Now, if you get sick, that is not a bad thing. It's because you're cleaning out some stuff. And we'll make a video about sickness in the future, but it's very important to know that a sickness is a blessing. Number 8, it increases glutathione reductase. Now, when glutathione has been used, it gets oxidized and it's not very useful anymore. Glutathione reductase reduces glutathione so that it can work again. So the more glutathione reductase you have, the more glutathione you'll be able to recycle. Hence, you have higher glutathione levels. Now, they looked at cold swimmers and they measured their glutathione reductase, and they saw that after they had been swimming, their glutathione reductase levels were low, and then the day after, they were above average. So that's how they kind of got to that theory of glutathione reductase increase in relation to cold exposure. Interesting to know. Number 9, and the most profound benefit, and the reason I do cold exposure, I don't really care about the health benefits. I've noticed that there are other things that lead to much better health than just cold exposure. It's just something I add that helps. But a stronger mind, more discipline. You see, if you put yourself in a really cold environment where you're suffering, or suffering is a choice, where you're in pain, when you get out of that situation, everything else gets much better, right? Because you have another reference point now. And I believe that's the most profound benefit. Happiness, maybe. That you're not in the cold water and on the verge of death. Now, it also something I've used as a strategy when doing videos is I've taken a cold shower to increase norepinephrine levels, and that has made me focus better and helped me articulate in a better way. So that's just something to note. If you're gonna do studying or something like that, then that requires cognitive or good cognitive abilities, take a cold shower and see how that area of your life improves. Oh well, over and out for now.